Earlier in 2024, we saw the biggest drop in home sales in the last 5 years. Boca Raton, is the sky really falling? This is your local real estate market update as of October 1st, 2024. I'm Larry Mastropieri, broker owner of the Mastropieri Group based right here in South Florida. Here we go. I often like to start this review with days on market data. Tracking this stat is a great way to understand that our market has, in fact, slowed down over the course of 2024. When we look at the average cumulative days on market data from September of this year, 2024, and compare it to September of 2023, we see an eye-popping, scary 42% increase. Put simply, the average home for sale in Boca Raton went from 55 days to now 78 days on market before accepting an offer. You're seeing that, right? That's a 42% increase in the days on market. That's a big number. Since mid to late 2022, we've seen days on market increase slowly, but it was that first 4 months of 2024 where it really started to increase. April is still the high point for cumulative days on market in 2024 at 81.8 days, but this September spike was definitely close to that. And the same bizarre theme continues from our last report. Since now it takes longer to sell a home, you would expect prices to go down. But let's look at the average sale price data from September of 23 and compare it to September of 24. And you can see we've experienced an unlikely 15% increase in the average sale price. Explain that. You can see from the trend that the average sale price has been steadily climbing since the latter part of 2023. Despite some volatility in the early months of 2024, the average sale price now appears to be balancing out a bit. But as I always like to do, we need to cross-check the average data with the median data to make sure there's no random large deals that are misleading us. And it's a good thing we did this time. If we look at the median sales price data from September of 2024 and compare it to September of 2023, you can see we've experienced a whopping 0% change in median sales price. In other words, what you may have paid for a home last year might be the same price you would sell it for in 2024. We should not downplay this stat at all. This is a first in recent history in our market. The market is clearly leveling out. The question now is, will price growth go negative, i.e. will prices come down? And based on a number of factors, I really don't think that's gonna happen. And now, after housing prices have defied the statistical trend of a slowing market over this past year, it appears buyers and sellers are finally getting on the same page. Kind of. Example, the average listing price chart shows that the average listing price has dropped substantially and steadily over the past 12 months. This suggests that sellers are putting their property on the market simply at lower prices. And to further support the theme that the market is slowing overall, the sale to original list price ratio data shows that a lot more homes are selling for less than their original asking price. And to give this some perspective, dating back to March, April, May of 2022, most properties were selling for asking price or even higher at that time. But the steady dip through 2023 has led us to this point. In 2024, now properties are selling for between 8 and 10% less than their original asking price on average. This stat has been slowly trending to the 8 to 10% range over the past 12 months. Note, this is historically normal though. Between 2015 and 2019, the average sale to original list price ratio was around 8%. So this isn't a red flag that the world's ending here in South Florida. It's just more indication that the market is returning to its historical norms. Let's talk about the number of listings graph and why I think it's so important and what it has to tell us. This data helps us explain the current and anticipated inventory in the Boca Raton real estate market. And we all know real estate prices are a function of supply and demand. So let's start with the supply side. In September of 2024, our real estate market closed 332 homes, and we added 604 new listings. That's a lot more new listings than closed homes. So how does that compare to last year? Well, that's 21% less sold homes than the same time last year. So demand has clearly slowed. Now, if we watch the trend line, we can see active listings are finally leveling off after a steady climb from late 2023 into early 2024. Inventory growth has basically slowed down, and the amount of listings going under contract has gone down too by 18% during that typical spring season for selling homes. In 2024, way more homes were being added to the market than were going under contract or sold. Fortunately, now that trend has slowed a bit. But it doesn't mean there isn't way more inventory than at the same time a year ago. As of October 1st, 2024, we are seeing a 36% increase in inventory compared to the same time last year. This means we now have over 1/3 more inventory and fewer homes are being sold. And what's interesting is 18% less homes went under contract in September 2024 when you compare it to September of 2023. However, you really need to look back to before 2020. Inventory today is still 13% less than December of 2019 because prices are the same versus a year ago. My takeaway here is that we're unlikely to see substantial increase in home values over the next year or so as this supply-demand trend continues despite interest rates coming down into the 6% range. I said earlier this year that despite the data suggesting home sale prices were higher, it just didn't feel like that was happening in the field versus a year ago. And from what the median data is showing now, I'd like to think that I was right. And because homes are sitting on the market longer, buyers are definitely able to negotiate considerably more than the same time last year. Another key data point that I like to consider when getting a full picture of the real estate market is the absorption rate, which is a good way to gauge whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. So what is the absorption rate? I think the best way to say this is if no new properties were added to the market and sales continued at a steady pace, it shows exactly how long the current inventory of property on the market would last at its current rate of sales. The absorption rate trend here in Boca Raton has been changing for sure, dating back to the fall of 2023. The absorption rate is now 5.89 months, which is higher than it was a year ago at 4.17 months. Typically, a 6-month absorption rate is considered a neutral market, and anything above that is a buyer's market, and obviously anything below that is a seller's market. So you can see with the absorption rate at close to 6 months, we are transitioning from a seller's market to a neutral/buyer's market. It's important to know that historically, pre-2020, the absorption rate has been in the 5s. Now let me share my final thoughts with you. From the absorption rate to the sales price trends and even sales to original list price ratio over the course of 2024, all signs seem to be pointing to a balanced housing market here in Boca Raton and Palm Beach County. Inventory stabilizing, prices are stabilizing. Are we seeing more downward pressure on values compared to the same time last year? Absolutely. But if you follow real estate in South Florida, you knew that this trend of high price growth was not going to last forever. I said this countless times on these market updates, and it appears we are finally coming off cloud 9 and settling on solid ground, which is good. These numbers are still better than 2019 because what happened after that is a circumstance we hopefully won't have to experience again in our lifetime. And now from my experience in the field, homes that are in top condition in good locations will continue to be in high demand and command top dollar. In contrast, properties that don't measure up will be more challenging to sell. That's basically what happens in a market with increasing inventory and waning demand. Right now, if you're a buyer, you have more negotiating power in a transaction, and you're going to see better buying opportunities now and coming soon. And as a seller, depending on the type of property you have, the world isn't over. We are still at peak pricing in most cases, in most of these South Florida markets. So while the market has slowed down and it's a little bit more difficult to sell, you're still in a very good position. Overall, I think where we are trending is very healthy for the market here in South Florida and Boca Raton. We are creating a smooth landing is what it feels like. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in. We know this market here in Boca Raton and South Florida because we sell more homes than anyone else here. So if you have any questions about the market, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Larry Mastrapuri. I'll see you guys on the next video.